afternoon. This is going to be me setting up my simulating area. This is my training area. So I brought a 1 in 50,000 scale map, and then I brought a protractor. So this is the map of Fort Benning. Now you know. This is the Fort Benning military installation, the edition 4-SRP. And today I'm gonna have my test out sheet. I have a notebook, and I have my writing utensils for the soldiers, and I also have my brief. Good afternoon, my name is Specialist Miko, and today we are going to determine the grid azimuth using a protractor. The conditions are going to be: you're a member of a squad or team that has received the order to require movement, that you have been directed to acquire the grid azimuth from the starting point to the ending point, and designated in that order. That's the order you have to do. You have to start from beginning to the end, to the start point and the end point. Also, to determine in that order, you have a scale map, a protractor, a writing utensils, and a paper, in all which I have provided to you. The standards are going to be to identify the starting point and the end point on the map. Then we're going to draw a straight line on the map connecting the points. Also, align the protractor to the map and determine the value of the angle. Also, so there is no special conditions at all. There's nothing, and the safety risk is low, and so it's basically low because I reconned the area before I got out here, so I made sure there's no hazards or anything. We also have an ant pile right here, but there's no ants in there, so there's no fire ants or anything, so the area is secured. And we're safe to begin training today. Alright. So the first thing we're gonna do, the first thing I want my soldiers to do is to orientate themselves with the map. So they have to get used to the map before they even do anything. That's the most important thing to do when dealing with the map. So if you have to find a point from the beginning to the end, you have to look over the whole entire map, know where it is, what area you're looking at. Even if I give you a coordinate and I tell you where to start from and to end point, also before at the end of the class, you'll also know what I'm talking about and everything. So for training purposes, I'm going to give you the starting point and the end point and teach you how to determine the value of the point and brief it back to me. So once I teach you where the starting point is and the end point, then I'm going to make the soldier do the same thing and just follow everything I just did and brief it right back to me to see if he got it correct or not, and see where I can fix him if he does get it wrong and correct him in that order. Now for the most important part, I'm going to explain to you how we're going to use the inner scale of the map. So basically, this is the map I have. We're going to use the inside, not the outside, because the outside, it doesn't give you accurate reading. The inside does. So if we put it on the map and you do your coordinates, you're going to read the inside of it. So it's basically the smaller numbers. There's also the red numbers on there, but that's not the one we're going to be using. We're going to be using the black numbers, not the red one. Also, I want you to know that the north needs to always be centered with the center of the protractor. So basically what I'm saying is the north has to always be in the middle, basically, of the protractor. So you have to see the north is going down. So basically for the acronym that I use is never eat soggy waffles. So that you know the north, east, south, and west. So even if you have it wrong way, if you have it backwards anyway, once you see that it's NW, then you know it's wrong. So basically just flip it over, and you see never eat soggy waffles, north, east, southwest, so you know. Also, so when you have it facing correctly, the 0 should always point north. So even if you have the protractor wrong or correctly, the 0 should always be pointing north. So the 0 should be at the top, right there. It should be facing northways. And also, north, and the 90 should always be pointing east. That's very important. So when you see the 90, you can tell the 90, okay, it's facing east. So it's going eastwards because that's where the 90 is. So you always know how to use the protractor and which way it's facing. Now we're going to start with to determine the grid azimuth, we're using a protractor. So to begin with that, I decided to use a string. The string works better. So when you're basically how you're using it is, once you have the string on the protractor, and I'll give like basically starting point will probably be, example, point A would be right here, and point B, the end point would be right here. Also, to start that, all you have to do is put the protractor on there, and then I'll use the string because it works better instead of a paper. It's more straighter. Once I have that point, I can also use the string and follow it up and also determine where it's at. It's more straighter and more accurate. So once you put it down, you look, remember we're using the inner scale, so we know which one we're using. You get that there, boom, it's right there. So now, that's basically, on top of that, you found the azimuth already. But since we're on Fort Benning, it depends on since we're on the East Coast, Fort Benning uses 6. So once you find the azimuth of it, you're gonna add it +6 if you're walking. But if we're not walking, then it doesn't matter. Just gonna stick to the number that we have. So if for instance, if we're in Hawaii, then Hawaii will be 9, because where it's at in the world. And then also, when we're doing this, we have to round it too. So for here, since Benning is 5.8, we just round it to 6. So that's why it becomes 6. Also, determine now. The first step is to locate the A graphic body. Also, once you determine the grid azimuth, you're gonna locate the G metric. That's also down here, so you'll know that's basically the true north. That's basically true north what we're looking at. So we're gonna look for true north, and that's what's gonna give us where we're going. After that, we're gonna get the protractor lined up and string added. So basically, when you're lining up the protractor, you always want to make sure the lines are matched up inside, because you're gonna go right, up, and left. So basically how we're gonna do it is make sure the center of the protractor is on the lines, because if you don't have it on the line, then you're not gonna get an accurate reading. So you want it on the line. You want to make sure it's on the line. And then wherever the point is at, it's lined up. Now you can move it. So now you know, okay, I'm in the right area. I'm in the perfect area. After that, we're gonna make the protractor. We're gonna make sure the protractor is balanced. So once it's balanced, then you use the string and pull it. Then you know where it's at, because you know the starting point is basically in the middle of the protractor. So you know that's your starting point. So our starting point right here for point A will also be 67. So once you look, for me to determine that we got 67, we're gonna look right here, start on the grid, and the string will tell you apart. So you see it right here from point B. So you know it's 67. But since now we're gonna add 6 to it, it'll be 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. So that'll basically be your grid's azimuth right there. And also for the fourth step, that'll be, I already told you, once you use the string and line it up, that's already basically 5 steps, and then you just get your grid azimuth after that. So now that I'm teaching it to my soldiers, they're gonna basically teach me and tell me everything that I've told them. I'm gonna plot different points on the map, and they could, from my teaching, they'll know from where it is basically. Also, now we're going to get more further into details into determine the grid's azimuth. Also, so once we identify the starting point and the end point on the map, and we draw the line through the map from the starting point, connecting the points, and align the protractor and determine the value of the angle, that's what we're going to do after that. So I've already showed you that the strings on the protractor is basically easy. So we're gonna set another point and another end point. Also, you always want to start here. This is the good thing to always remember, that to convert a magnetic azimuth into a grid azimuth, you have to subtract the GM angle. So basically, instead of adding it how I would add it, you're gonna subtract it just to get the grid azimuth. Like if you want to get a magnetic azimuth to a grid. So we're not looking for a grid anymore. We're turning it to the magnetic one basically. And then to convert a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth, then we're gonna add the GM angle. So that one you're gonna add, and then to also from a magnetic to a grid, you're gonna subtract. Also grid conversions from 1 to 10 for like 20 miles for center of the sheet. That's like, it's basically 6 because we already know this is for Fort Benning. But also the G metric, we already said it, is 5.8. So that's 103 miles. So now you know how far and how long the distance is to determine a grid azimuth from wherever map that you're using. And also we have a magnetic north, we have a grid north, and we have the true north. So now you know the 3 basic north when you're trying to do a plot, or you're trying to start from point A to point B. And also the elevations in meters, they contour interval into 10 meters. So basically 10 meters in everything on the map. Now we're going to go back to point A and point B. This is another example I'm going to do again. So first, we want to use a map. Once again, we want to center the protractor, make sure it's straight. So the lines on here, we're going to center the true north on it so you know what it is. Then you're going to bring it down to point A, the starting point. And then you see the end point, use the string again. We got 130. So, and now plus 130 plus, since it's the Fort Benning map, 5.8, you also want to round it, so it turns into 6. That 130 plus 6 becomes 136. And therefore, again, I have found my azimuth using the protractor. Also, now we're going to keep on doing it. I'm going to show you just in case. More examples. Now I'm going to have my soldier show you everything that I've done. He's going to refer it back to me. So for our starting point, be down here. Now, show me. Alright. Use a string. Wind it up. that you got 125 plus the 5.8 since it's sport bending, so that'll be a 6. 125 plus 6, what would that be?
130.
So now, he's got it accurately correct. It'll be 131 on the azimuth. That's 15. So it'll be 131 on the azimuth. So basically, this is it. And then, so this concludes my period of instructions of the brief of how to determine a grid azimuth using a protractor. And then, so once now that I'm done, and I've already explained to it, and I'm safely responsible, and I'm very accurate that my soldier can determine a grid azimuth now that I've finished my brief, I'll also pack up everything. I'll secure the area, make sure everything's well and done before I leave. But before that, we'll do an A&R. I'll ask them what are my sustainments and what I could have done wrong, or what I could have done better to improve myself, what went wrong, what could have been better, and they'll tell me my sustainments, what they liked about the brief, and everything else. So this concludes my period of brief. My specialist Miko, thank you.